Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and it's time for part 2 of the Q&As, so let's go ahead and get to the first question. Best way to go for a seasoned lifter who's taken a long layoff either from an injury or who is just slacking? Start with a beginner program like yours, an intermediate program, or just right into advanced. I had a torn pec, full tear, had surgery and rehab about 2 years ago and want to rebuild my chest to prevent another injury. I'm a fan of pause, bench / incline. All right, brother, great question. We talk about a seasoned lifter. You're talking about already going into an advanced, so I'm going to assume you were previously an advanced lifter. For people who want to know what does that mean, we have charts on that. There are charts up, and they are relative to body weight, and people need to remember that relative to body weight is only because people have different heights. I always hate it when people say, well, you can't expect a 140-pound guy to meet those strength standards. I'm like, well, I expect a 140-pound guy, if he's not 5'2", to not be anything but a novice lifter, because he hasn't gained enough muscle. You're not going to be 140 pounds and be well into intermediate or an advanced lifter if you haven't gained any muscle yet, right? So that's kind of a component there. But there are charts there based upon your height, that little caveat aside. Now, that being said, I wouldn't go into an advanced program necessarily, but I also wouldn't necessarily go into a novice program. The reason, yeah, you might be able to make novice gains, but if someone has been out due to an injury, you need to start back slow. And what's the best way to start back slow? An intermediate program, because that is what people need to remember. What's the difference between a novice, an intermediate, and an advanced program? The rate of progression. An extremely aggressive progression is used on novice programs. That's why they're novice programs, because novices are capable of gaining enormous amounts of strength in 5 or 6 months. Enormous amounts. It's not uncommon for novice lifters to add hundreds of pounds to some of their lifts in their first 6 months in the gym. That doesn't happen to intermediates. An intermediate is oftentimes going, man, I would love to add 40 pounds to my bench this year, or 25 pounds to my bench this year, and 40 or 50 to my squat. That would be a dream come true. See, that's when you're an intermediate lifter. Advanced lifters are like, man, I would really love to add 10 to 15 pounds to my squat or my deadlift this year. I don't know if I can do it, but I'm going to try. I really hope I can add 10 pounds to my squat. That's an advanced lifter. So that being said, if you've previously been advanced, I think going into an intermediate program is better because the progress is going to be a little slower. Yeah, the strength will come back a little slower at first, but you're going to lower your injury chance, and you will get there. It's just going to take twice as long for the first phase of it than it did as a novice. And you know what? Stick out an intermediate program for a year. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. You know what? I'm training almost intermediate programming myself right now on a couple of my lifts because, guys, I haven't been squatting and I haven't been benching. I've been doing other lifts. A lot of deadlifting, a lot of push pressing. That's been the majority of my training. And now that I'm going hard all the way around again, I've gone back to basically intermediate style training. And I've had to do the same. And again, it's to build up gradually, avoid injury, and you'll get there eventually. Don't be in a hurry. That's the beauty of being a seasoned lifter, an advanced lifter, and having been one before for any of us. We know that it's about the long game. It's about the long game. So take your time with it, brother. Build up slow and don't get hurt. A good intermediate program will serve you well. All right, next question. Hey, coach, or is that couch? No, he definitely wrote coach. I've very recently switched to a 10x3 workout scheme. Still full body, thrice weekly, revolving around compound movements, but 3x10 instead of 5x5 so I can get out of the gym faster, work and family commitments. Deadlift still just 1x5. Can I still apply linear progression? I'm probably just at a novice stage, 90 kilogram squat, 75 kilogram body weight. How much could I add to that via 3 sets of 10? You know what? I can see this. You know, I have a linear hypertrophy program also, because a lot of people don't have the time and recovery commitment to do a high volume 5x5. They don't, particularly with the sort of frequencies I'm promoting. So this is also a viable alternative. You know what? If you're just seeking general buildup and overall hypertrophy, you can run a 10x3 system extremely similar to my 5x5. It can absolutely be done so that you can get out of the gym 20 minutes faster each time. Probably be a hair easier to recover from for some people. Totally doable, and particularly with your lifts. If you're a 90 kilogram squatter, yeah, you're in that area right now. Give it a try. Give it a try. It's not going to always produce the strength and total potential something like my 5x5 will, but I don't see why you can't make outstanding gains in size first and strength as a secondary doing this. How much could you add? I don't know. That's hard to say how much you could add, but you're going to be squatting a hell of a lot more than 90 kilograms if you do this for the next 6 months. Keep the progression pattern the same. You can do linear progression with 3x10. Absolutely can be done. It's been done by many people before, and it will be done by many people again in the future. So yeah, absolutely. For your goals and what you've said, sounds fine to me. Give it a go. All right, next question. If I want to start doing martial arts, not only for improving conditioning, but also for self-defense, it would be better to do a combat sport, MMA, he lists a whole bunch, or take an actual self-defense class like krav maga. I know that best self-defense is carrying a weapon, and if I ever got in a fight, I would pick the best weapon available, but I think that knowing how to fight on top of that can still be useful. Example, what if you're put in jail where you don't have weapons available and you don't want to become your inmate's bitch? I think the problem with combat sports is that they only teach you stuff within the rules. But self-defense classes often teach useless stuff such as defending against a knife and arm, which I think will rather get people killed. All right, brother, great question. Normally on this channel, I would only stick to something like martial arts and discussing the conditioning and sports benefits of it, because martial arts has become a sport. In the modern world, it's not really a viable form of self-defense, because let's be honest here, we live not just in a modern world. People say, oh, firearm. No, just firearm, just knives and everything else. You got to be aware of that. And I will tell you straight up, any self-defense instructor who teaches you that you can defend against any sort of blade with your bare hands, walk out the door. Walk out the door of that class and demand your money back. Whatever you paid, you need to demand it back. He's a con man. He's a con artist. This has been learned the hard way by experts out there, and I've seen a perfect example of a police self-defense instructor who is skilled in multiple forms of martial arts, and he was an actual instructor for his police department, had gotten a situation to where he got entangled with a guy with a knife and had to grapple him and take him down. And we're talking, again, an actual instructor in self-defense and again, a master of multiple forms of martial arts. He needed over 100 stitches. And that's one of the best in the world. That's as good. You're not going to be better than that instructor. He needed over 100 stitches from subduing that guy with a knife. You don't go toe to toe to someone with a blade. And I agree. So any self-defense class you go teach, they start talking about BS like that, you demand your money back and walk out the door. If you do not have a gun and someone pulls a knife on you, you run. Throw something at them and run. Your martial arts, your self-defense, your krav maga, your BJJ is not going to save you from a bladed weapon. If you got a gun, at least you can shoot them and backpedal. And even if you're a really skilled knife fighter, you don't go toe-to-toe against another blade. You're both coming out of it with stitches, best case. So, yeah, useless stuff. What I would say overall self-defense, BJJ, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu would be a good class for you to take. Again, but you need some weapons training with that, because as anyone knows, any defense system that doesn't incorporate weapons also is really a waste of time. It really is. It's not going to help you as much as you think it will in any situation. So that's where things like krav can really be useful for you, but it's very, very hard to find it, good instruction at it, because it's become trendy. You're going to have to do your research to find something like that. They do exist out there. There are some good ones out there, but it's been so marketed that there's a lot of nonsense also. So you're going to have to dig around and do some research. But krav would be a good choice. And BJJ just all around. Useful for grappling and everything. It's a very useful style in the real world, to the point to where a lot of actual police and other people are trained in BJJ. in countries where they don't always have armed police. Actually, very, very common. So that would be worth you considering also. I wouldn't rule that out. Either one of those, but again, finding the right instruction will be tough. All right, next question. Hey Jason, do you think there's much point in doing isolation moves for the legs if you're already doing squats, deadlifts, and leg press? I know you hate leg extensions. Just seems like the effort put into isolation exercises for the legs could be spent doing more heavy compounds. Thoughts? Generally speaking, if your core is becoming a limiting factor, your core is becoming a limiting factor and you need more overall lower body development. That's why the leg press exists. You're already doing that. I don't think the leg press is useful by itself. I would never have someone do the leg press as a primary leg exercise or call it their main compound. But there are also limits to how much squat volume a person can do. We know this. This is accepted. And if a person is struggling to recover from all of the loading on their spine from the amount of squatting and deadlifting they're doing, the leg press becomes useful. That is your lower body isolation. The closest thing I would recommend for definitely for the quads for isolation would be your leg press, right? That's it. That's what I would recommend. Now, hamstrings. I do hamstring isolation right now. Is it by choice? No, it's because I don't have access to a glute ham raise. If you have access to a glute ham raise, I don't think there's any reason to isolate at all. The glute ham raise will isolate your hamstrings enough for carryover to whatever else is you're doing. The glute ham raise will even work the biceps femoris, the head that everyone always talks about. Oh, it doesn't get hit on the deadlift. Okay, fine. The glute ham raise will do it. But if you don't have access to a glute ham raise and you need more hamstring volume, you might have to isolate the hamstrings. Like I said, I do it right now only because of equipment limitations. So a lot of it depends on what you have available. As far as that goes, if there being a need to isolate anything, but isolating the quads, no, I would never do it. Pointless, useless. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.